Okay, the first thing that I'd like you guys to do on your opener is go ahead and change that date from 2/27 to 3/1. Today is the very first day of March. So today is March 1st. Okay? So the first part of the opener, which is what your quiz is going to be over, is percent increase, percent decrease. So you start with an amount, and then it's going to be discounted, or it's going to be increase or tax, and you need to determine what that final price is going to be after the percent increase or the percent decrease occurs. So this first one here, a $20 video game is marked up 50%. After it's marked up 50%, they then decide to take 50% off of that marked up price. What's the final price of the game going to be? So, how many multipliers am I going to have for this particular problem? 2. Good. So, that means I'm going to repeat steps 1 through 3 2 times. So, step 1 tells me I need to start at what? 100%. Now, in your quiz today, if I don't see these percents where they need to be or dollar signs where they need to be, you will lose points. So, make sure you're putting that in there. Now, the first one is marked up 50%. If it's marked up 50%, am I going to add or subtract that percent? So I'm going to add it. So I'm going to add 50%, which equals 150 what? Percent. So that's step 2. Step 3, I changed that percent to a, because I'm changing it to a decimal, so I'm going to divide by 100, which equals 1.5. I'm going to circle this. Now, if you don't circle that on your quiz, I'm not going to take off points. I like to circle it because when I use multiple multipliers, it helps me quickly depict which ones I'm going to use. So you will not lose points for not circling your multiplier. I just recommend that you do it. Okay, so there's my first percent change. So now I need to find my next one. So after they mark it up and it's not selling because it's too expensive, they go through and they discount it 50%. So again, I start at step 1. So if I start at step 1, I start at 100%. If it's discounted, it's at add or subtract. So I'm going to subtract 50%, which equals? Okay, so that's step 2. Divide by 100 to change it to a decimal. Step 3. I'm going to circle that because that's my other multiplier. Now, I've got both of my multipliers. I'm ready to move to the final step. The final step tells me to do what? By the... Okay, so I take the original amount of my video game. Since it's $20, I make sure I have my dollar sign. So I'm going to take $20 times my multipliers. When I multiply those together in my calculator, what number do I get? Even? Just 15 even? So $15. Yeah, well, it doesn't seem like a whole lot, but think about it. Originally, that game was $20. At first, they marked it up 50%. So that made that $20 video game a lot more expensive. So then when they went back through and decided, like, okay, nobody's buying that, and they decided to take 50% off of it, well, from that marked up price, it doesn't end up being very much. Like our $60 sweater yesterday ended up being like $13. That was a good discount. This one, not so much. Okay. Well, we're going to talk about sweaters again. So, a sweater that is regularly $34.99 is on sale for 33% off. If the tax is 7.75%, how much will you pay for the sweater? So I'm just going to bounce around the room. When I call on you, you're going to tell me what I do. So we're going to start with Joey. Just 100 plus? There you go, 100%. Plus what? Plus 33%. That equals what, Deontay?
Yeah.
What's that?
I thought it was too. If it's off, like 33%.
Oh, jeez.
See, extra credit on my paper.
You didn't even notice it.
Exactly.
Goodness, trying to take credit where it's not due. Sorry, on sale for 33% off. You are 110% right, Beyonce and Isaiah. So if it's on sale, we're going to subtract it 33%. So what's 100% minus 33%?
76. I mean 66. 67.
67 what? Percent.
Good talk.
Okay, from here, what do I do with this percent, Haley?
You divided by 100.
Because I change it to a,
That's
okay? So 67% divided by 100 equals,
0.67.
because that's my, what's that number called? My multiplier. Okay. From here, what do I do, Nick?
Oh, 100%.
100%. Okay.
Plus 75%.
Which equals? Percent. Brendan, now what? Which equals?
One 1.07.
I'm going to circle it because that's my multiplier. Okay. From here, what do I do, Rihanna?
Oh, you put down 34.99.
$34.99, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you have that dollar sign there. Go ahead.
And multiply.
My multipliers by it, that's right. So times 0.67 times 1.077. Okay. When you get that, what number do you get into your calculator?
You get,
Okay.
what's that?
So we're going to get 25.260. That's all the numbers I'm going to write down because I don't need all those other ones.
It's a tissue.
Yeah.
It's barely done on there. No, it's on.
Okay, so when we're dealing with money, we need to round it to the nearest cent or the nearest hundredth. It's the same thing, the nearest cent or nearest hundredth. So which number is in my nearest cent place value, Deontay? The nearest cent or the nearest hundredth? The 6. So everything behind that, I'm going to drop down. But I need the number directly behind the 6 to determine if I'm going to round it up or keep it the same.
You're gonna keep it the same, so it's just gonna be 250 and 60 cents.
So the cost of the sweater is going to end up being $25.26.
25.
Now, I do want to see this step on the quiz. That will be a point. That way, if you end up rounding wrong, I can give you some extra credit for showing me that you got the answer, you just didn't round it correctly. Okay, flip your openers to the back side. So now we complete the following chart by converting each type of number into the other types. Be sure to show all your work. So the first one, we have a fraction. We're going to change the fraction to a decimal and then change it to a percent. Jemiah, how do I change a fraction to a decimal? Nope, fraction to a decimal. So look for your bold word fraction. Skim it. Okay, fraction to a decimal. What's it say? Divide. Yeah, divide the numerator by the denominator, which means we're going to take 7 and divide it by 8 and get good. Okay, now we're going to change that decimal. So you can either change the fraction to a percent, or you can just change the decimal to a percent. I'm going to change the decimal to a percent because it's less steps. So how do I change a decimal to a percent? Haley? 2 ways I can do it. What's one way?
Move it over.
So I can take my decimal point and move it to the right twice. So I can go 1, 2, which means my new answer will be what, Haley?
7.5.
And you changed it to a what?
That's
What'd you change it to?
2%.
So what should I have behind that? There you go. All right, moving right along. So now we go to the middle row. The middle row, they give us the percent column, so we know it's 55%. How can I change a percent to a fraction? Raise your hand if you can tell me how to change a percent to a fraction. Smith? Nope. Beyonce?
Wait, a percent to a fraction. Divide by 100.
Nope. No, I'm changing the percent to a fraction. Now, if you want to change the percent to a decimal, so do you guys want to do a percent to a decimal first? If you want to do a percent to a decimal, then yes, you would divide by 100.
Then what I
I don't
got?
like for a fraction. Wait, for the
Say that again?
You divide the percent by 100.
To change it to a what?
Decimal.
Okay, so if I'm going to change the percent to a decimal, all three of you guys told me the right way. But if I want to change the percent to a fraction, how do I do that? Good. The denominator, if I'm changing that percent all the way to a fraction, the denominator is 100 because percent means out of 100. Yeah, you said it backwards. So I think you guys all knew what you wanted to do, but you just said it incorrectly. So what's my numerator going to be? 55. And then we reduce. What's 55 and 100 both divisible by? So my answer is going to be
11.
over 25 or 20? Are you sure?
No, it's 20.
It's 20. All right. Now, you can choose to either change the fraction to a decimal, or you can change the percent to a decimal. It doesn't matter. So you can choose to change this fraction to a decimal or a percent to a decimal. They're both about the same.
Percent to this.
Okay, how do I change a percent to a decimal?
Divide by 100.
Okay, so I'm going to take 55%, divide it by 100, and what do I get?
0.55.
There we go. Okay, now we're in our bottom row. Rihanna.
Okay, how to change the decimal to a percentage? 0.256 multiplied 100 negative 25.6%.
Okay, so to change this decimal to a percent, we decided to go ahead and multiply it by 100 instead of moving our decimal point to the right twice, which is still an acceptable way to get it, and we end up getting 25.6%.
Wait a minute. On the first one, I thought it would be 75%. On this percent.
The first one? I'll come back and look at that with you. Okay, so because this percent has a decimal point in it, you wouldn't want to try to change this percent to a fraction. So we're going to end up changing this decimal here to a fraction.
Never mind.
So how do I change a decimal to a fraction? Thank you. No, it's not you. How do I change a decimal to a fraction? Anybody?
Wait, I would say count your place.
How do I change a decimal? You do, yeah, you do. You count your place value. What's the place value of the last digit?
1,000.
1,000. So that becomes 1,000. That becomes my denominator. What's my numerator?
That's 256.
Okay, and then we can reduce it by hand by dividing each by 2, or you can take the shortcut and have your calculator do the work for you. If you use your calculator, you're going to type in 256 fraction button 1,000, and what do you get?
32 over 125. Wait a minute.
That is correct.